and always will, is about moving humanity forward. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing, forget about it. Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Now, make sure you check me out on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, it's at BadBradRSR. And as well, check out my great writing team on ringsidereport.com. Well, today, folks, I have a special guest on who is a former Republican congressional candidate who has switched to an unaffiliated moderate conservative who is running in CD3 district in Colorado, and she is going to be a write-in candidate in the general election come November, and she is running against Lauren Boebert, aka Boebert. So, without further ado, please welcome to my show, ladies and gentlemen, Marina Zimmerman. Forget about it. All right, well, first of all, Marina, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I got to ask, I see the American flag back there and I see the hat. So the ladies in the picture, is that Marilyn? Who is that?
It's Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn, that's what I thought.
My grandson would say different. When he first saw the picture, he only 3. And when he saw the picture, he said, "That's my Mima and that's my mama."
And I think that's the famous Breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so, from her hairstyle. Okay. Well, first of all, like I said, thanks for taking the time. This is, I always preface every show with, if I have anything wrong in my notes, please say, "Hey, Brad, it's actually this," because I like to be as factually correct as we can be.
Perfect.
Okay. So we're going to do a 360 conversation today. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics, but we're going to start at the beginning.
Okay.
So it looks like you were born in Germany, the daughter of a U.S. Air Force sergeant, and I'm assuming your mom was a German immigrant. Was it your mom?
She was, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Born and raised in Germany.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How long did you live in Germany, and where are some of the other places you lived?
We came back here when I was 2 to the States, and we went to Okinawa. And then I had a little brother that was very, very sick. He had Noonan syndrome. So what ended up happening is that they stationed my dad in Texas, at San Antonio, Texas, so that my little brother could be close to the Lackland Air Force Base Hospital. And he lived most of his life in there, in that hospital. So as far as going, out, I do a lot more traveling now, actually, but we did live in Okinawa.
Okay. So growing up, say age 2 to teens or whatever, was there one area you grew up in more than most?
San Antonio. Universal City, right there at Randolph Air Force Base.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So talk about San Antonio at that time, growing up in that area.
It was good, but it's so much bigger now, and we spent so much time, really mostly at the Air Force Base and at the hospital. I didn't really get to do a whole lot of, childhood things because, like I say, my brother lived in the hospital at Lackland Air Force Base Hospital, and so we were there, just about every day. So, but growing up there was good. It's really changed a lot. Now it's just so big, but we didn't do a whole lot. Went to school and went to the hospital. Really didn't do a whole lot.
Okay. The Riverwalk. Did you ever go to Riverwalk?
Yes, and that's kind of an odd thing because back then, whenever we'd have somebody come visit, they always wanted to go to the Riverwalk, but as I remember it being a kid, it was just like a ravine. There wasn't all the restaurants. There wasn't all of that. It was just mostly like a concrete ravine and a few little things down there. Is what I remember. But now, it's just phenomenal. Love to go down there now.
I've got pictures. My dad, when we drove from Miami Beach to California in a 71 Volkswagen Bug. We in 1976, he took me there to Alamo, and he took me to the Riverwalk, and I got pictures on the the flat bottom boats that, as you say, go down the Rhine, but they had a lot of stuff on both sides by 76. Okay.
And yeah, and I might not, and as a kid, I might just not remember it as well as I do now. So,
Okay. All right. It looks like you earned your AAS in paralegal studies and a bachelor's in political science and pre-law. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Talk about going to school at that time and studying.
Well, I spent 20 years as a crane operator in industrial construction. So I was working 60 and 70 hours a week and trying to go to school. So it took quite a long time. I didn't even get my associates until 2001. And, so it was an ongoing progress. And then I came here to Colorado because I worked out of state a lot. I came here and I went to Fort Lewis College and got my bachelor's in political science with a pre-law minor. And then I had a business here for a little while. And but then I ended up back in the construction business. And when I went to Louisiana, I went to LSU, or I went through LSU and got my PBC in construction management, and just about done. Yes. At LSU? Okay. And then I went back to get my master's in project management, and I haven't quite finished that yet because I decided at that time it was time to jump into this race.
Okay. So. Now, when you said LSU, Debbie is off camera, but I heard her cheer say "Go Tigers" because she's from Louisiana and LSU. In fact, I had to watch literally last night. I had to watch for an hour and a half a video of them making LSU colors the next wreath that's going on our front door. I don't really have a choice in the matter. I'm a New Yorker, but I have given up on that. We got a flag, so everything is LSU or New Orleans Saints in this house. But
right, absolutely.
Okay. So
Go Tigers.
Now, and I saw you mentioned a PBC in construction management. What does PBC stand for? What is that acronym?
Post-bachelorate certificate.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, because you're my first guest that ever has something like that, and I love it that you're a woman working in an industry that I would assume is probably male dominated. I saw pictures of you on a crane operator. Talk about, like, when you went to school for that, or you got your certificate, what are some of the things that you had to do?
Well, the certificate was quite intense. It's a degree that's, you do everything just like any other degree, but you end up with a certificate at the end of it. But it entailed construction management, everything from managing an office to being able to estimate steel for buildings, and just everything, concrete, estimating, yards of concrete for, everything that you would have to do to be a construction manager. We had to go through that, plus take computer classes to make sure that we could get the office stuff done. It was quite intense.
All right. And I know you traveled a lot doing that type of work. So I have to, being someone that can't stand the trait of misogyny, I would assume that you dealt with a lot of hard-headed males in that industry. Right? Indeed.
Yeah. From the very beginning, and it's easier now for women now than it was then. We were kind of the pioneers. And I have walked on projects. I've been on projects, there's 4,000 people, and I was the only female. But I got told quite often that, you won't see the seat of a crane on this job. We're not going to have a woman in the seat of a crane on this job. I had to put up with sexual harassment like mad. But back then, they weren't going to do anything about it. So your choices were stay and try to work it out. And not work it out with the person, but maneuver your way, or leave, end your career, leave, or try to get on another job. So you really had to fight it from within, and it it could be quite difficult. It was quite, that's where I got really tough. But, I growing up in the military type family, you learn to be tough, I think. And so that kind of helped me with that. But I just have a really tough attitude. So I was able to maneuver that. I'm not saying I didn't go hide in the corner and cry every now and then, but but yeah, it was very tough.
I bet.
And it can be still today.
Yeah. So let me ask you, your father, first of all, thank you for his service. Was he a career guy, or did he do a certain amount of time, or?
Yes, he was a lifer. He did 21 years.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether he would have naturally done that, but like I said, my little brother was very ill. And so with the medical bills, you just couldn't afford something like that. So.
Okay. I want to go into politics. I want to read something. And if I have anything wrong, absolutely correct me. Researching you were a never Trumper, correct?
Always a never Trumper.
Okay. And it looks like you're not a fan of many of from your tweets, not a fan of many of the current Republicans in power.
No.
Looking at your tweets. In fact, you just left the Republican Party after the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade, but talking to you, you were turned off by them even before this. That maybe was the nail in the coffin. Now, you refiled as an affiliated moderate conservative. Is that correct?
Unaffiliated.
Unaffiliated. Okay. Unaffiliated.
Yes.
Okay.
Unaffiliated.
Okay, good.
We don't have Colorado doesn't have an independent party. You can't actually affiliate with an independent party through Colorado. So it's unaffiliated. That's
Unaffiliated. Okay, I'm glad that you corrected me. So what exactly is an unaffiliated moderate conservative?
Well, I guess I'd have to start at the beginning. I was unaffiliated for a lot of years because I just felt like I've always been the type of voter that really believed that I want to vote for the person. I want to vote for the right issues. I want to have that flexibility. So I was unaffiliated for quite a while, but I am conservative. I'm fiscally conservative. And I like to give the example of, I would have voted for the infrastructure program for sure, for the infrastructure bill, but I would have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that money was going where it needed to go and not in somebody's pocket. So that's kind of how I describe my fiscal conservatism, that sort of thing. And I've always been kind of right-leaning, growing up in the military. You're sort of ordered, everything's ordered, and so I just sort of tend to lean that way. And so when I decided to run for office, my choice was, I tried out several different affiliations, and I landed with the Republican Party, although I was very, very torn because I am a never Trumper. And I do not go for QAnon and all the conspiracies and that. I just, the Republican Party, the fiscally conservative, I'm socially moderate, but I just felt like there was something we could do to bring the party back, back to civility, back to being a healthy party. So that's why I went with Republican. And I've been talking now. What is the original? Did I miss the point of the original question?
No. You're explaining what that is. What unaffiliated moderate conservative, where it stands. I don't. That's your, because you are. If correct if I'm wrong, you're not on the ticket, but you're a write-in candidate. So in November in the general, they can vote for you and write you in. And absolutely. You could beat the Democrat, and we know Boebert is the one that's the Congress. Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about it shortly. But Adam, what's his name? Adam, the Democrat?
Adam Frisch.
Right. So he's the Democratic side, correct?
Right.
So you could be written in if you get enough votes in Colorado. You can win on a write-in vote. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what happens is, because I decided to do this, and there were reasons, maybe we can talk about them later, but there were reasons, but I had to fill out an affidavit and send it and get it notarized and the whole thing and send it into the Secretary of State's office to make me officially a write-in, because you can't just, if somebody wrote somebody else's name in there, it would be just dismissed because they're not on the list. I had to tell them exactly how I wanted my name written in, and the whole thing like that. So when they write my name in, it's just the same as any other vote that
Okay.
they would. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this: since you were Republican, though against a lot of their things, you don't like that they overturned Roe versus Wade. So I don't want to make the assumption. So I'm just going to ask you straight out: are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life?
I have always been, and that's one of the things that I was like sidelined for, because I would go to these Central Committee meetings and I would go to all the Republican dinners and I would give speeches, for a year and a half now. And I've always been very, very upfront about how I feel about things. And one of those things, I've always been asked about that. I'm pro-life to the point, with exceptions. I believe that, after 16 weeks, there's exceptions. I believe it should be legal and okay to do up to 16 weeks. And then after that, exceptions, rape, incest, and, medical things, whether it's the baby or it's the mom, you should have that choice. So I don't know, I'm pro-life after 16 weeks, but I do understand that there are reasons, that a person might not be able to continue the pregnancy.
Okay. Why do you feel, as somebody that's pro-life, and that you have people, like, you put up a tweet and I saw it on your page and I was discussing the 10-year-old girl in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And you have that, I forget what her name is, Mean Jean something is her nickname, some Republican congressman who's insane, talking about a 10-year-old as a woman. That's absolutely bullshit. But absolutely bullshit. Saying she shouldn't have the baby, and then put it up for adoption. So the hell with the child and everything that her body, all the things that we get into medically. But what do you think it is? Because you just said with exceptions, but the Republican Party in the daylight, maybe not in all of them in private, because they all speak out both sides of their mouths.
Right. They've all, when I say that in my speeches, when I say that 16-week thing, they grimace a bit, but they say, but I've heard them say, but I can live with that.
Right, but you can live with it. Right, but you have current, where I'm going with this question is, but you have current Republicans in power that there's no exceptions, not for rape, not if it's going to kill the mother, not if the baby is going to be totally messed up for life, that they don't have insurance to cover, all these type of things. Why do you think that is, that they act like that?
I don't think that they would feel that way. I don't think at all if it was personal. I don't think it was their family, their 10-year-old. I think that's when they'd be, oh, we didn't run. I think right now I was disgusted by Amy Coney Barrett's, supply of domestic infants. And I don't dismiss that as a reason why a lot of them would do that. We have a lot of, and we may be going off to the side here, off in left field over here, but with the extreme Christian nationalist movement that we have going on here now, there aren't as many people going to church. There aren't as many people in the pews today as there used to be, and I think that's part of it. I think in some deranged sort of idea that they think that's the reason, and it's just not. I mean, and I'm going to be honest, and I put this in a tweet, so I'm just going to come right out and say I was a victim. I was a victim of incest for many, many years. I was lucky I didn't get pregnant, but I try to put myself in the place of that 10-year-old. What if, okay, hang on. What if You know, it's insanity to say that regardless of the age, that you should be forced.
Yeah.
Because it's not about your health or adopting out the baby or what like that. You have a baby, and every woman knows whether you're going to put it up for adoption or not. When you have a baby, there is that tremendous feeling of, you know, it's too hard to give it up. You may want, you know, you may have to or what like that, or you may be resentful, whatever, but it's still a connection there. Why are you putting somebody through that?
Right. And look, here's the thing, and I'm on the left, but I'm more in the middle. I don't have a problem. Look, I just marched for women's rights. I'm pro-choice, but I don't have a.
When I saw that.
What's that?
I was so proud of you when I saw the pictures of you at the march.
Hey. But no, I'm pro-choice, you're pro-life. But here's where I'm going with that. I can debate you on being pro-life, pro-choice, my thoughts, your thoughts. But I also appreciate, even though I disagree with you on that stance, that you say with exceptions. The Ted Cruzes, the Lauren Boeberts, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, all of the Josh Hawleys, and let me tell you, I can't prove it, but I said it on my show and I stand by it. I cannot prove it, but I honestly believe it, that Donald Trump has paid for abortions and he's NDA'd these women where they can't come out and talk because they'll lose everything they got. But I wish somebody would come forward and prove it. It won't mean shit to his base because they don't care. But I would love to show the hypocrisy. And that's one of my biggest things. People, and I'm not saying you, but a lot of the Republicans in power are pro-life until the baby is born, but then they don't want to have anything. And I know that we'll get into this a little bit later about guns and everything else. I'm a gun owner, but I'm also for responsible gun laws. And I know that the Republicans are in bed with the NRA. Okay. And I know not all the Democrats are what they profess to be either. I call it balls and strikes. But this pro-life issue drives me nuts because you see a lot of them, their side girlfriend has an abortion, nothing said, it's all hush, hush, hush. They pay a doctor under the table, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We've seen it on both sides, Democrat and Republican. Unfortunately, right now, the Republicans are doubling down, no exceptions. This is the way it's going to be, the law of the land. Until, like you said, it's their 10-year-old daughter. And nobody has the right to tell a 10-year-old child that has been raped that they have their baby. And I was going to ask you something. Do they know, did it come out if it was an adult or if it was another child a little bit older than her? Or did that story come out who it was that raped that young lady?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. So let me ask you this. When you were a Republican in limbo, I'll say in limbo, you weren't crazy about them. What were like 2 or 3 things you were adamantly against that were Republican fundamental policies or stances?
Well, you know, I can honestly, my time in these where I was going to these dinners and committee meetings and luncheons and this and that, you know, I'm pretty outspoken, and so sometimes I don't, sometimes things come out loud that I don't actually always mean for them to come out loud. But when they would sit, you know, sit and cheer on and try to bring that adrenaline rush to all these people, and they would talk about, you know, the election being stolen, and, you know, and just some of the things that, and I, you know, I'm like, you know, that's not, you know, that's not true. You know, the election, and in my speeches, they didn't like it that much, but in my speeches, I was very clear, even in a room full of those folks. It was an insurrection, and Joe Biden won the election. Stop with this nonsense. And so those things, you know, and Joe Biden being a pedophile and that sort of stuff, those things drive me nuts. Yeah. And to have to sit there and watch some of the others get up and give speeches, and you know in your heart of hearts that they don't believe what they're saying. Yeah. It's so hard to sit there and listen to that. But the guys, the gal sitting next to me or whatever, they do believe it. because they're hearing it from their leaders and whatnot. I'm like, how can you say some of this stuff? You know, like I said, I only chose the Republican Party to run under because I'm fiscally conservative. And I thought, well, I think that's where I belong, you know, but it was pretty quick. And when they talk about LGBTQ, that drives me nuts. That drives me absolutely. I was at Pride last year. They invited me to Pride, and so I was at Grand Junction at Pride when they came through the Bob the Drag Queen and all of them came through with the HBO special, and they saw that I was a Republican. I was setting up. I actually set up a table with all of my stuff. And so they came and asked me, could I'd be on one of their segments of,
Right.
And I was like, yes, of course.
Right. Well, you know, I've said this. To me, the Republican Party is pathetic in a sense that they had the opportunity to dump Trump and become inclusive, not exclusive, and say, you know what? We screwed up them 4 years. Okay, we're going to move away from them, and we're going to start being inclusive, not exclusive. We want LGBTQ. We want people of color. We want immigrants that this country was built, but that's not what they want. They want to be like Trump because Trump owns the base. And it's disgusting. You know, your father served in the military, and I'm sure he's probably doing Vietnam, I would assume, too.
Yes, he went 3 times.
Right. Mm-hmm. And Trump took, as we know, 5-time draft dodging deferment. Right? Disgusting. And I'm a veteran. I did 20 years and 28 days. I have a problem, which I've called them out. Any veteran that went to the Capitol, I don't care how it sounds, I stand by it. They should lose their veteran benefits because they're a traitor. That was an insurrection. Okay. The January 6th commission is showing what this is. You have Liz Cheney, which you know this better than I do. 93% of the time, she voted with Donald Trump. Yeah. How she voted for him in 20 after everything he did, I have problems with that. I'm not a fan of her. I don't support her. I give her credit that right now she's putting country over party, but I'm still not a supporter or a fan.
She's standing up.
But she's standing, at least she's doing that. Adam Kinzinger, same thing, voted for Trump. And, you know, I got people on the left saying, no, he voted for Trump in 2020. And even now, Adam and Liz vote against the voting rights bill. So, no, I'm not a fan of that, but I give them credit that at least they're standing up. What I want to read for the viewers and for you, and then we'll get into it. This is going to address Boebert. So you're in.
Before you get there, let me tell you something that I just want to get out. When in Colorado, when you get on the ballot, you know, say running as a Republican, you have choices. You can either, you know, get 1,500 signatures from Republican voters across the district. 1,500 signatures put you on the ballot right away. Or if you can't do that or you don't do that, you can go to assembly where all those core Republicans, they're delegates. They're the ones that go to those meetings. Those are the ones that believe in all this nonsense the most. You can go to their assembly, and if you get 30% of the vote, they'll vote you. Then you can be on the Republican primary ballot. So I decided I wanted to see what that was like. Why? I don't know. Anyway, I went to the assembly, but this is the part I want to tell you about because you brought up veterans. I expected, because everybody knows I'm a never Trumper. They know who I am. I've never, ever walked the fence. And so when I got up to give my speech, my acceptance, you know, not acceptance speech, but my speech so that they would vote for me, I expected to get up and immediately start getting booed by all 750 of those people in there. And I was really surprised that I started walking up on stage and a few of them clapped for me. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And they were very respectful through the whole time I was giving my speech. And then around the end, because I did not vote for Trump, I voted for Biden. It wasn't for Biden, it was against Trump. And I'm very clear about that.
Okay.
I don't think Biden's done a bad job, but that was why I voted for Biden. And they know that because I've never lied about it.
Right.
So that's why I expected to get booed. But they had come to me before I gave my speech, and a couple of the guys wanted me to explain myself. I said, I'm going to do that in my speech. I'm going to explain why I voted against Trump. One of the major reasons, and I hope you understand it, is what I told him. He said, okay. So when I went to explain, I said, I'm going to tell you exactly why I voted against Trump. One of the biggest reasons is because I am here. I wear the Vietnam bracelet.
Mhm.
I was out. And I told him that, and I said, you know what? My dad was a veteran, and I'm a huge, huge veteran person. Veterans, we owe them everything. We just owe them everything. And they started getting a little restless. And then I started talking about, and when Trump called them suckers and losers, the crowd went nuts. That's when the booing started. And I continued because, I just continued talking about veterans and how, he didn't serve, but yet he stood back and called them. And the boos were off there. I had one man screaming at me where they came and stopped him and told him he had to leave if he didn't stop screaming. But when I mentioned John McCain being a prisoner of war, being tortured for this country, being a prisoner of war in this, for this country for 5 years, they went nuts, booing. And the hate, booing me for talking about McCain, booing me for talking about veterans to begin with, but they just got out of control out when I started talking about John McCain and the fact that he had been a prisoner of war and been tortured for 5 years.
Let me give you clarification. They were booing you because they don't like McCain anymore?
Yeah. Oh my God.
But see, this is what I'm talking about, because I talk about this on my show. He served he was captured. He was in Hanoi Hilton for 5.5 years. The man, I don't care about policies. This isn't policies. I'll debate policies all day on policies that I'm well versed on. Ones I don't, I won't. He couldn't lift up his own arm to comb his own hair. That son of a bitch sat with Frank Luntz, who's another scumbag. But even Frank Luntz was shocked when he said, and I quote, "I like my war heroes not captured." Any other person, it would have ended their campaign. It would have ended it. That was before the Hollywood Access tape when he was going to grab him by the you-know-what. That would have ended it. But see, the problem that we have, and with Trump, he didn't start racism. He didn't start hatred in this country. He didn't start this. But he took him out the swamp and made it was comfortable. People loved John McCain. They might not have liked all of his policies, but even Democrats respected his service. I don't care about all this stuff that came out with Steve Schmidt and all this. I'm talking about his service. I'm not talking about anything else.
Absolutely.
His service.
Absolutely.
Trump comes out and bashes him, and then all of a sudden his service means nothing anymore. The hell with John McCain. He wasn't a warrior because Donald Trump, when nobody in the Trump family, with the exception of Fred Trump, who I think served in the National Guard or Air National Guard or something like that, but all the other Trumps, no, Fred did, not the father, his brother, his older brother.
Yeah. And that's why he was pushed out. That's why he pushed
him out, right. Donald didn't serve, Robert didn't serve, none of the sisters served, and the father definitely didn't serve.
And the grandfather, do you know about the grandfather?
I think wasn't he a Nazi? I don't remember.
He was in Germany, and at that time, they had to serve, just like in South Korea. You have to serve.
Right.
He ran away. He came here. He ran away.
Of course.
Years later, and I believe this is in Mary's book, because I read Mary's book. Years later, he tried to take the family back, and they kicked him out.
Yes, I did remember that.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you know how disgusting that is? You bring up John McCain, and they're booing you because Donald Trump?
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
All veterans. I was talking about all veterans, and that's when the booing started.
Yeah.
Because I said that I cannot tolerate somebody that would call our veterans suckers and losers, and what was in it for them, and all of that. And they started booing me.
You remember when you may or may not remember this because he's done so much. Remember when they had traumatic brain injuries, and he said it was only headaches. Only headaches. He was minimizing it. Okay, let me ask you this. I want to read something, and then we'll go into it. This is about Boebert. So you're in, is it CD? Does that mean Colorado District? Is that what that stands for?
Colorado 3rd Congressional District.
Right, 3rd, which Boebert is the sitting congresswoman, right, for that district?
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel, and I'm going to ask you the question. I believe she's a racist. She's a misogynistic, narcissistic, married to a convicted sex offender, factual, which I don't even understand how she could run being married to a convicted sex offender. And she's a lying traitor to America. Period. End of story. Now, if I understand correctly, you had dropped out of the race so you wouldn't have to split votes with the is that right? With the Republican, Don
Quan. Yeah,
right.
he got in it late.
Right, he got in late. So let me preface with this, then I'll answer the question. I don't know if you follow Ron Filipkowski on Twitter.
I do.
He has the best videos and everything of Trump. The left may not like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it because he actually said it on my show and I agree with it. I don't have to agree with all the Republican policies, and most of them I do not. But I'm going to be honest. And Ron called it out, and he's right. There are, and you'll know this better than me, there are certain Republican districts that a Democrat, no matter what, will not win. So
that's here.
So if you find a Republican that you can at least work with, you can argue tooth and nail on policies, but they're not QAnon. They're never Trumpers. They are not with Trump. And you're not going to get a Democrat. I would much rather want a Republican that at least we could reach across the aisle and find maybe some middle ground and at least have a conversation. Now, the left isn't going to like that because they want all Democrats. And I'm not for that. We need to have two parties in this country. Unfortunately, right now, we do not. But we need two parties. Democrats cannot get their way on everything, whether they like me saying that or not. So Ron said, we need to step back and be a little bit inventive here, that you're not going to get all these Democrats, no matter what you say, no matter how much money you throw into them. So let's try to find, when we can, Republicans. Now, in any other time, that might be cool. But in this time, as you saw in Wyoming when Cheney just debated, the insanity of the other Republicans, in Arizona with this Kerry Lake running for governor, the insanity of everybody that has an R. You have people that are winning primaries, not general primaries, running on the coattails of Trump. You know this better than I do. So what I want to ask is, it looks like, how do you say his name? Karim lost to Boebert by it. Now, you had a different number, but it looked like it was about 23,000 votes. She got more than him. Looked like her total was about 53,127. Is that a correct number? Because that's what Ballotpedia had.
No. Her votes at the time when they called it.
Okay.
And I made that mistake. I went ahead and posted that number, but by the time all the votes were counted, she ended up with only 80,000.
Okay, so she got 80,000 votes.
Very low number. There's 560,681 voters in this district.
Okay.
And she only ended up with 80,000.
Okay.
So because that movement, that is the tragedy of what happened here.
Okay, go ahead.
When I started running, a year and a half ago, I started running really early. And I have this whole district here. That is exactly what we started. Well, I didn't start it, but I was very glad when a huge group of Democrats and like progressives started this movement. They even started a Facebook page for me called Liberals for Marina, because that's what they were doing. They were all changing. That was the big campaign. They were all changing their affiliations to unaffiliated, because here in Colorado, if you're unaffiliated, you get both ballots in the primary. You get a Democrat and a Republican ballot. You can only choose one, but you can vote in either one you choose. So the whole movement here for a solid year was, and it was huge for all of the Democrats and the unaffiliated to use the Republican ballot and vote for me and on the Republican, and put her out in the primary is what I'm trying to say. Put her out right in the primary, because this is such a red district. It is so huge, 27 counties, 50,000 square miles, but it's a Republican, it's a red district. And they knew, all the Democrats, progressives, they knew that whoever took the Republican primary was going to win the election, was probably going to win the election. So the whole movement was for me to capture those votes. And it was huge. It was a huge movement. And we were right there. And then with all the redistricting that went on, John Quam was a state senator, sitting state senator. But he was drawn out of his district. And the guy that's in the district that he could run in wasn't up for re-election. Okay. So suddenly, just out of the blue, he jumps into this race. Now I have to worry, after campaigning for well over a year, starting this, getting this movement together, and it was very big. He jumps in, and now I have to worry because he's a sitting senator. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they'll vote for him because he's, experienced. He's already a sitting senator.
Is he a Trump guy?
He's in the middle, and that's where that's where this is gonna go tragic. Is that I decided, I said, the last thing in the world I want to do is for her to get in accidentally. So I pulled out of the race, but he couldn't decide whether he wanted to be a Trumper or not. And there were, first of all, he owns a lot of dirty mines in the state of Colorado and has not wanted to clean them up. He's been going to court for years to get those permits to keep them idle because and it's poisoning the water and the whole everything, But right after the insurrection, he gave a interview to the Montrose Daily Press. And in that interview, and I've posted it a few times, he says that there were radicals from both sides at the Capitol unrest. And then he goes further to say Antifa and Trump supporters were at the Capitol that day. No. And the paper itself had to write under that thing, his quote, his statement, the FBI refutes this.
Yes,
right?
Bullshit. This is bullshit.
Point through this whole thing was, I know that everybody's worried that I won't get the votes now that he stepped in because he's got the Senate experience, but he's not liked here. He's unpopular here. But I still couldn't take the chance of being the one that caused the problem. But he didn't get it, and I knew he wouldn't get it because he's very unpopular here.
Didn't Colorado, weren't you the first state that passed legalized marijuana?
I think we probably were, yeah.
Where does Boebert sit on that issue? Or she doesn't talk about it?
Oh, well, there's another quorum thing. And another reason why his own home county dislikes him so much, I guess, from what I was told. Now, this is what I was told from the chair of the Republican Party in Montrose County, in his county. When they did that, he decided to start some hemp farms, and all of this. Well, it wasn't very successful. It wasn't a big money maker, which is unusual. I would have thought it would be. But he has all these acres and acres and acres of hemp farm, right? Well, this is what I've been told. When it went under, he decided to let it go. He didn't want to clean it up. So he put some black plastic crap all over the top of everything. Weeds grew up, and then the plastic started it's non-biodegradable. So it started coming in little pieces, and all over the county. The animals were eating it, and every year they had to plow under, I guess, to plant, because you couldn't keep that stuff on top, whatever. So they really, really disliked him. Well, she started, and so the only way I know how she feels about any of that is she started putting ads out in the Sunday paper that he was a criminal because he was making made bills that helped him make $25 million in the hemp business. But she was getting, while she was saying those things, she was getting the hemp. Hemp and I think marijuana are two different things. So I didn't know which one he was growing. Okay. I don't know that much about that stuff myself. But she put it that he was, and in the one little tiny debate that they had, she called him a drug dealer.
I do remember that. I do remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yep, I remember
Even
that.
her people laughed.
Yeah.
Even her people on her side of the road laughed.
So let me ask you this for the viewers. You've been around her a little bit. How evil is she really?
She's very evil. She's a liar. And she lies. But what she does is what I call, she gets up there, the Jerry Springer crowd.
Yes.
That's what I've always called them, is the Jerry Springer crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows this. And she gets up there and she tries to get their adrenaline rolling. And she'll march across the stage. Looks like she's mutton busting or something with her hand all up in the air, And she gets their adrenaline rolling. But she doesn't do anything important. She lies, for one thing, about most of everything that she marching up and down there. She'll lie. But she gets their adrenaline going. And they like that. Yeah. They like that. It's like that fight.
But that's what Trump does. That's what Trump does.
Oh my God. So that's what she does. And, but she does nothing for the district. She does, but they like that adrenaline they get from her.
So you may not say this, and you might not even concur with the statement I'm about to make, but I say it and I stand by it. And it's not just for Colorado. Politicians don't vote themselves in. If that was the case, anybody ever want to run would say, I want to run. I'm going to be the next representative. That's it. So what does it say about the 80,000 plus that voted for a woman who is proud of being a racist, who misquotes Bible scripture like it's going out of style, who is a liar, who walks around, I'm going to say it, like a floozy. She dresses like a floozy, okay? I don't believe in, I go after men about misogyny, but she's misogynistic. She's just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, just in a different way. She's better looking than Marjorie Taylor Greene by just a little bit, and I believe she's got 5 toes. Okay, I had to go there. That's a little joke. But she's disgusting. So what is it? Because I don't buy into this. Everybody's brainwashed. Everybody is. Fox News has the Men in Black thing that they look at the light, and then everybody is because the left always has excuses for all of it. I feel that these people had something in them that resonates with Trump, whether it's because the way I look at it is you don't get to pick and choose. If someone votes for you and they don't like 3 things of you, they own all 3. Now, policies are a different thing, but I'm talking about as a person, as a human being. He's a misogynist. He's a narcissist. He's a racist. He's all of these horrible things. So you don't get to say, well, I don't like his misogyny, but I'm okay with his narcissism. Or well, I don't like his tweets. No, you own his tweets when he was tweeting all that evil shit. Mm-hmm. My point is, what does it say about those constituents that are voting for someone that is the personification of evil? And once again, I'm going to say it, married to a convicted sexual offender that exposed, and I believe she was in the bowling alley.
She married him. She was one of the kids.
Yeah, and married this guy. And then takes the Christmas picture with guns. I own a gun. I'm not against guns. I believe you have the right to have a gun, but responsibly. But she's going to go, and it's for her base to spin them up, take a picture with little kids underage holding guns. What the F kind of message? And the other guy did too, the other congressman. I can't think of his name, that creep.
Massey.
Yeah, Massey.
Yeah,
Thomas Massey, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
So she copied him. She wasn't even original with that idea. He did it first, she did it second. So, I mean, I don't know if you'll say, but I have a problem with those constituents that are voting for this person. You're enabling this person to be in a position of power, whether she does anything or not, but she's still there. If you want someone that's conservative, vote somebody that's not a QAnon kook, or is not a racist, or not all these things. I know that they're going to say every Republican in the world is a racist.
No,
I don't buy into that either. I don't buy that either. But I have a problem with those constituents. I really do. And it's not just in your area. I'm talking about any area. And I say it about Trump. If January 6th wasn't your bridge too far of what he caused on January 6th, they're a party of law and order, but those police got the shit kicked out of them. Some died. But now they don't matter because they're not supporting Trump.
I can't understand. They're supposed to law and order, law and order.
Yeah.
But you don't stand by the Capitol Police. I don't understand any of that. I have a grandson that is a police officer in Atlanta, Georgia. And, you know, even if he wasn't, I would still stand, you know, back the blue, but I have to qualify that also. There are bad cops, and I think.
Well, no, I'm the same way. I'm not a back to right. I'm not a back to blue.
Been
I back
infiltrating
good
the
cops.
police and the military for a
Right.
long time, but it is this crowd
Right.
that you're talking about,
Right.
those voters.
Right.
And you know, I have a little bit of experience with that, and you know, I've met literally millions of people being in industrial construction for over 20 years, traveling this country, you know, and I know a lot of those people. I know a lot of people that have that attitude, and they just, to be honestly, they just, it's their environment that they grew up in. It's the things that they were taught. And a lot of them just, and I don't want to sound condescending, but they don't know any better. You know what I'm saying? They're capable of learning better, but they don't really want to.
No.
You know, because I don't want to, you know, we talked about veterans and my dad and the whole thing, but I won't sit here and lie to you. My father was a horrible person. He was a horrible person. If he had Trump's money, I'd say he was Trump.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing to have to say, but it is true. He's a Holocaust denier. He, you know, the whole he was a horrible person. He really was, and he victimized me. That he was the one, you know. So he was a horrible person, but that's where I have that experience, because I know they exist, and you know, hating, you know, anybody except what he considered, you know, lily white, you know, that he wasn't even religious, but that's, you know, but he preached that stuff. He went around and he believed it, you know? Yeah,
but you see, and I talk about this, and I thank you for sharing that, because I know it's personal and I appreciate it. You know, I was in the military, but I never am one not to call out and say that there are segments of the military, which is proven with Trump, that they're racist. We have government institutions. Look at what the Secret Service agents are doing behind Trump, of all people. And I always say, don't get me wrong, wrong is wrong and right is right. There's no gray area with me. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I'm not a back the blue guy. I'm a back good cops, because I don't believe in this wall of blue to cover for bad cops. But I also will stand with a good cop. I'm not one of those, I paint with broad strokes. I don't do that. There are hero cops, and then there are lousy cops. There are good veterans and there are bad veterans. And I will call out any veteran that is for Trump because of the things that you said. He doesn't effing care. He attacked 2 Gold Star families, the Khan family, the Johnson family, when he told the widow, and I believe it, because that's, people say, well, how do you know you weren't there? Because I always tell people, I'm a New Yorker and I've been to the horse track. I know a little bit about the horses. You bet a horse on past performances. What did he run in that race? What did he do in that race? What did he or she, the doors, do? And then you say, then you hedge your bet. Trump talks like that. So when the widow said that he said to her, he knew what he signed up for, I absolutely believe he said that. Because that's the way he that's the way he talks. That's the way he talks.
And I believe he called them suckers and losers.
Right, suckers and losers, and all the other stuff that he did. Let me ask you this. What are 3 things that you could share that are like your platform going into the general for the viewers and constituents in your area? Like 3 areas. You don't have to go major, because I know they can go to your website, and we'll talk about that at the end. I'll let you plug in. But what are 3 things off the top of your head that you could put out that are policy or stances that you take, that you're running on?
Well, first of all, you know, I believe in civility, 100%. This is, you know, the discourse between, you know, elected officials has gotten just so partisan and bitter that it's destroyed the relationships that are necessary for a good functioning government, you know, and we have to put civility and being able to have civil conversations and finding common ground. In order to, you know, come up with the best solutions for people, you know, and the most people get, you know, a piece of that solution. That's integrity. That's one of my big things. And as far as policy wise, energy is a big thing for me, as far as like just policy, strictly policy. But my platform is that, I think this extremism and all this, as I was talking about the discourse, this, destroyed these relationships, that opened the door for Trumpism. That opened the door, that picked up the rock and let these people climb out from under these rocks. And the only way we're ever going to get them back under the rocks from whence they came is to bring civility back, and to be able to have two healthy parties again, 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Maybe it's we got to go to ranked choice voting. That's another thing that I am learning about, and I really am kind of really agreeing with. We have to bring back the idea that elected officials are there to serve the people. People all the time, I think it's gotten so confused. People ask me, well, how do you feel about this? What are you going to do about this? It's not just, I'm just one person in this district, and so you talk to people, you have to take their message. Take the people's message to Washington. It's not just how I'm going to do it and I say and like I'm some sort of authoritarian. What does my district want? What do they believe? So I just think that there's a better way to do this, than what we're doing. But the civility and the integrity and the honesty, truth. If you
talk about country over party.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a principals first. I was there at the summit, which I shared a video with you.
Joe, yeah,
Joe
I saw you and Joe.
Yeah. But I'm country first, principals first, and RIP and the whole thing, because even if I were still affiliated Republican, those are the things. I was very stubborn about leaving. I thought up until Roe versus Wade, I thought that we could right this ship. But I'm not sure I believe that anymore. So maybe we have to put some independents, some unaffiliated voters that believe in civility and conversation and there's nothing wrong with the art of compromise. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you don't give up everything that you believe. You don't have to, but unless you're willing to compromise, you're getting nothing.
Right.
Except the fighting that's going on right now.
Okay.
So
before we segue into the second half of the 360 conversation, just the fun random questions, got to ask you, you have the world famous, is it Biscuit the Sleepwalking Dog? So
yes.
Is the dog named after the group Limp Bizkit by chance?
Yes.
Okay, I figured that in my research. You don't have a picture, do you, of the dog? We're talking about the sleepwalking dog.
Oh well, I don't know. It's somewhere, but I have the helmet that I bought for her. I used to because she's, literally world famous. Even the Switzerland, they have a big magazine, and they purchased a license so they could do a story in the magazine. All over the world. Japan, I still sell licenses. She's been dead since, she's been gone since, I think 2015.
What breed?
And I still sell licenses. She was a mutt. She was a rescue dog. She was part lab and part something else, mostly lab, but she was a rescue dog. And she was hilarious. Here at home, we have a lot of land, and so she could be outside. But when we would go to other jobs and stuff, sometimes we have to be in an apartment, and you can't have her outside. But when she sleepwalks, she doesn't just tick around. She literally gets up and runs around and bangs off the walls and the doors and the furniture and stuff.
Oh wow!
And oh my gosh, particular time, like, this is a small apartment, and I got to have her inside, and nobody can sleep. Nobody can sleep. So I thought, so I called a vet and I said, what should I, and we discovered that across the whole world, they'd never even heard of it. She was the only dog that anybody's ever heard of that literally did this.
Huh.
And so she said, well, the only thing I can tell you is that maybe we can fill her full of Valium, and maybe it will come. And I said, I'm not willing to do that, because it's every time she falls asleep.
Wow.
It's not sometimes, and I'm not willing to do that. So I sat up one night, and it was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, no other dog's ever done this, and she's so unusual. So I got my camera out, and I thought, well, I'm going to film her. And it just so happened that particular time she had this dream, and she was running, and she got up on her feet, and she started looking behind her and barking and running from something behind her, and ran into the wall and bounced off the wall. She didn't get hurt, but and then she woke up and she just kind of looked at me like, what'd you do? Yeah. They're like I had done. But anyway, I got it on film, and I didn't know anything about YouTube at the time. And so I put it on, but I thought, oh, that'll be funny. I thought it was funny. So I put it on there, forgot all about it for a couple of weeks. And when I got back on, there was millions of views.
It's on
and
YouTube?
I thought, well, there was just millions. And so I thought, this is wow. And I was standing in my living room right after I discovered that. And I heard Anderson Cooper 360. He was on in the background. And I heard him say something. And my son said, that's Biscuit. He had picked up she was on Anderson Cooper 360. Well, then I started getting people that wanted to purchase license for her. Alfa Romeo, and I mean, every show you can imagine.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Phil, every show you can imagine she's been on.
Wow. Okay, I gotta look some of those videos up. Cool. So what do you look up when you did a YouTube search? What do you put?
You can do Biscuit the Sleepwalking Dog, and she'll come up.
Okay, yeah. Cool. I'm looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people tried to copy it, but Marina HD 2001. Okay. That's my originals.
Okay. I'm gonna look it up. All right, let's segue into the second half. Just fun, random questions. There's no right or wrong answers. Whatever you say off the top of your head. Okay. What is your favorite genre of movies?
I like psychological thrillers.
Okay. Is there one you can watch over and over and never gets old?
Not of that, but there is a movie that I used to watch over and over and over. Birdcage.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about with Robin Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Sounds
That's
good.
my favorite movie.
Yeah, great movie, Nathan Lane. Okay. Do you have a favorite TV show?
Schitt's Creek.
Okay. Do you have this is going to be a tough one, but favorite or someone you can listen to all the time, musical band?
Oh, that's not tough.
Okay.
That's not tough. I just got back a couple days ago from the Santana concert. Santana.
Okay. If they made a movie about you, who would you like to play you?
I'm pretty passionate about most things that I do, and I'm very, very socially oriented, like right and wrong sort of stuff. So I think Julia Roberts, just because of Erin Brockovich.
Okay, good movie. Do you have a favorite noise or sound you like to hear?
Waves crashing on the beach. I did a job in was a crane operator in St. Croix. U.S. Virgin Islands, and they put me up right on the beach. And so I could hear that constantly, and I love that.
Okay. Debbie, when she watches this on replay, she's going to remind me that her birthday present from her 50th, which was a couple years ago. We didn't get to go because of COVID. She's going to, thanks a lot. I'm going to be paying for that one. All right. Now flip that. What is your least favorite noise or sound?
People cracking their knuckles.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite food?
Fried chicken.
Okay.
Popeye's fried chicken.
We just had it the other night. She had the spicy. Okay.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh no, but picture this. She's from Louisiana. I'm from New York. So we go to a town called Valparaiso, which isn't that far from us. I'm in Northwest Indiana, but don't tell nobody. Trump country. So I don't do the greatest out
I
there.
did a job in Crown Point, Indiana.
That's where we live next. That's where the march was in Crown
I
Point.
know. You
Yeah.
just said it.
Yeah, exactly. We live in Winfield, exactly.
I was there for 3 years. We were there for 3 years.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay, we'll have to talk offline about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we go into Popeyes and she's like going back and forth. Well, is it the same as it tastes? Because she's from Louisiana. Is it the same as it? I'm like, 20 minutes to order. Just they liked her so much because her accent, they let her taste the chicken. I never heard seen that before, but I messed up and ordered the regular and I should have ordered the spicy.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you have a guilty pleasure?
A couple of them, but one is whiskey
Okay.
and the other one is playing poker. I'm a Texas Hold'em player.
Okay. What is the very first job you ever had in your life?
Oh, wow. And I don't know if this will count because I only had this job for maybe an hour and a half. Because it's just not my style. I just, if you don't start no shit, there won't be any kind of attitude. I've always had that.
Okay.
And I was very young, and I worked in a breakfast place. They gave me a job as like a waitress in a breakfast place, and it was across the street from NASA in Texas. And there was all these men in suits and whatnot, and they'd complain and carry on all the time. They just complain about everything. And the one kept asking me for his eggs and bitching at me about his eggs. And I told him I don't cook, I'll bring it as soon as it's done. And he just kept on. By the time I brought it, he said something nasty, and it's an accident, kind of. It went in his lap.
In his lap.
Didn't come get my check. I just walked straight out the door.
Okay.
Never went back. They still owe me money.
That's funny. Okay.
I knew right then a waitress was
Wasn't for you. Okay. If you were, that's a funny story. Might have fallen in his lap by mistake. You said and you said his lap, right?
Right in his lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Light blue, powder blue suit on.
Good for him. Good for you, I mean. Okay. If you were to hit the lottery tomorrow for say 200, 300, $400 million lottery, what's the first thing you'd do?
Well, aside from helping my kids out, I've often thought about those. But the first thing I would do is go to the Women and Children's Shelter and make sure, because during my college time, I wanted to do some community service, and so I cooked for them a couple, 3 times a week, whatever. But I would make sure that they never wanted for any groceries. And the second thing is because we always had to scrap. I always had to figure out something to make with the scraps that they had. And I would make sure that they always had enough vehicles so that moms could get back and forth to work and not struggle. I would do that. That would be my thing.
Okay. Do you have a favorite vacation destination?
I've done a lot of traveling, but I think Italy's probably my favorite.
Okay. Got to ask because I'm half Italian. Where in Italy do you like the best?
Well, when my daughter graduated high school, I took her to Italy for a couple of weeks. So I've only been there the one time, but we went to Venice, and then we took the train up to Cinque Terre, Monterosa area, and everything that we experienced there was fantastic, and we can't wait to go back. So, but that's my experience with it. I spent 2 weeks traveling,
Okay. Marina, if you could meet one person from any time in history, dead or alive, from any walk of life, who would you like to meet? And what would your either first question or some things you like to talk to that person you pick?
I'm thinking of Churchill, Winston Churchill, and I would love to talk to him about the war. Before, how, the feeling, the times, what was going on, and the genuine, because sometimes we get, as they say, whitewashed or whatever you want to call it, history. I would really, really want to know what was really going on about that. It's either that or Madison, so that he can tell me what he really meant by the, what they really, what constitutional amendments and the whole, the Constitution really, the gist of it, because that's always a question, what did they mean interpreting it,
Okay.
So.
Okay. With everything we discussed today, if you had to sum yourself up in a few thoughts as a human being, what would you say?
Well, for one thing, life in general has made me tough as nails. I'm fearless. I don't have fear of much. I really don't. I put myself out there with, and I'm right and wrong, and very passionate about right and wrong. Okay. So I don't know, fearless to the death.
Okay. Okay. And finally, last question I always end the 360 conversations on is, do you have a saying that you live your life by? And if so, what is that saying?
Yeah, I do. I've been using it and I raise my kids with it. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Okay. Yeah, I believe that's Gandhi. Okay. I believe it was Gandhi. Good. Okay. But be that change. If you want to see, don't stand around complaining if you're not going to try to do something. Okay, I agree. If you would, before we close out, give the viewers your social media platforms. Well, I have a website. It's marinazimmerman.com. And that's my campaign website. And I'm putting together a website for the podcast that I want to put out there, and it's called keepingitfrontandcenter.com. That's the website for that. Okay. And it's not published yet. It's because I'm not finished, but it's going to be keepingitfrontandcenter.com. Okay. And Twitter. And so Twitter is oh no, Marina for Colorado. I try to keep them all pretty, because I've got so many different ones. But Marina for Colorado is most all of my handles. Okay. Across my social media. Okay. I'm gonna close out. Then I'm gonna give you the mic to close out completely. First of all, again, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it. My show is all about moving humanity forward, and the fact that I saw that you want to have decorum, that you were never Trumper, are a never Trumper, not were, are a never Trumper, that you want to bring people together. Doesn't mean that we're all going to agree, but if we don't come together in some way, shape, or form, we're never going to get it done. It's just not. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you care about the things that you care about, because we need more people that care about humanity. I'm glad that you speak out and use your platforms, because you don't have to do it. I always tell people it comes at a cost, no matter what anybody says, and it's not always financial, it's other things. So I thank you for doing that and using your platform, and continue fighting. I hope like hell that you beat her, because I despise her and most of them, but her and Green, I really, really, really despise it, because they're destroying democracy. They're destroying this country. They're enabling people that shouldn't. I believe in people having voices, but I don't believe in the people that they're stirring up. They're getting too many. I don't want to hear their voices. I don't. I'm all for fairness. I'm all for difference in ideas and opinions, and whether you're on the left or the right, as long as you're not insane. And the right now is, we have the far left that's insane, and we got the far right, but we got a lot in the middle of the right that's just as insane, because they're running on Trump. So I can't give them a pass as much as I would normally, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, contrary to what everybody on the left says, because they hate all Republicans. I don't hate all Republicans. I don't. This current crop, I'm not a fan of. But with that said, I want to give you back the mic and let you close out. Anything you want to say, go for it. Okay, well, like I said, I'm a write-in candidate. So people will literally have to write my name in, Marina Zimmerman, on the ballot. We can do this. We can beat her. And I want people to really, just do your research. Just, she says she does all this. She says she has all these bills. But do your research. You're going to find that she's voted no to everything against our best interest here in the district. And I want to know how somebody doesn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of, and suddenly 2-3 months later, she's a multimillionaire, and now she's worth $41 million. Where is that money coming from after only a year and a few months or whatever? $41 million? So please do your research. Write us in.
Okay. All right. On that note, until next time, we'll talk offline, and I will see you on Twitter and keep me posted. You got access to me if you need to come back on to put something out. Let me know, and we'll get you back on.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care. Hey, folks, that's another episode of the Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report Web TV channel. Make sure you share this one. Make sure you retweet it, and make sure you subscribe, because I greatly appreciate when you do all three of those things. Marina Zimmerman, running in Colorado against Lauren Boebert as a write-in candidate. You heard me give credit to Ron Filikowski, who was a guest on my show a couple months ago, who put it in proper perspective and was being realistic. Look, folks, I'm voting blue or we're all screwed. Absolutely, I agree with that. But however, there's going to be areas in the country that are not going to be won by a Democrat, no matter if you sock 18 gazillion billion dollars. I know that's not even a number for them to win. It's not going to happen. So if it's possible to get Republicans or independents or whatever they are, that were Republicans that were never Trumpers and not on board with all this craziness, they might be conservative, then you know what? You need to really think about helping getting them elected. So at least we have people in there that aren't completely nuts. We can disagree on policies, but if we can come together with some type of decorum and meet in the middle, it's not a bad thing, because each side is not always going to get what they want. And we do need, no matter what anybody says, and this is my opinion, two parties or more. I'll take a viable party over the Democrats and Republicans any day and twice on Sunday. But right now, this is the system that we have. So I would rather see a Republican get in that at least is not a Trumper, is not insane in the membrane like this current crop of Republicans, especially the one that is married to a convicted sex offender, gave her customers the shits at Shooters, SS, Shooters and shits go together, Lauren Boebert. All right, folks, remember, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out.
Okay? But this country was all Negroes and you were white. And they took your rights away from you because you were white. And they killed you 3, 4, and 5-year-old children in churches, pal. Now what would you say, white man? Tell me.
Well, that's not
Where you gonna sound? The hell it isn't. You think a Negro's equal? Where do you see one in this speech? Show me. They had signs, no dogs and Jews allowed. Are you Jewish?
Yeah.
No dogs and Jews allowed. I lived there when I saw the sign. Okay? You still got clubs where Anita Bryant belongs to, where they don't allow Negroes and Jews. I like to see you and Rabbi Wedding and the rest of those Jews walk in the front. The day you can walk in that front door of Bat Club, that's the day I'll join you.
You're voting for the gays.
I am voting for Negroes, Jews, gays. I belong to human beings. If you allow one, just one human being to be allowed to have his rights taken away from him as a human being, then, pal, you don't have any right when they come to take away your rights. Because if you say screw you to them, they say screw you to you, and 6 million more Jews wind up in the toilet. And I'm not going to wind up with them. And I'm a Jew, and I'm goddamn proud I'm a Jew. And I'll say it from the rooftops, I'm a Jew. A human being. Okay. Right. I'm right. Okay. I believe in what I'm saying.
Thank you for watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Please follow, subscribe, leave comments, forget about it, and move humanity forward.